Welcome to L.I.F.T.S. We're at CES 2024, and you must be in your element, Mo.
This is my Super Bowl. Yes, there is a real Super Bowl, but this is my work professional Super Bowl. Julian, you're here at CES. I knew you were coming, right? We were texting back and forth over the holidays, and there's a lot of our industry network that's been here. So you told me you're coming to CES. My next question was,
why?
Why?
You asked me why.
Yes.
And I said, because 5 years ago when I was here, I saw John Foley downstairs selling Peloton bikes. Literally,
Where's it?
He was right over there selling Peloton bikes. So you come here, this is not a show like Ursa or Connected Fitness that you have to go to every year. This is a show you come to every 3 or 4 years and to see what's new.
Yeah. See
what's happening in the space of medical devices and the integration of fitness and tech. So just got here today. I've already seen some very interesting companies that are helping with CGM monitoring, companies that are bringing bladder relief service, like bladder relief control tech. I don't really understand it, but we know we get older, we're gonna need it, right? I've seen a bunch of different companies that are innovating in more the digital health space, less the fitness tech space. I didn't see much so far that was exciting in the fitness tech space, but the digital health space was quite interesting.
Yeah, we were saying the same. That not too much fitness certainly compared to last year where we had a number of products, but this year I think you're right, a lot more kind of medical, but maybe that's just kind of where things are going as well. The last gentleman, your brother-in-law, was talking about kind of where he sees things, and I suppose it's an obvious connection that those things really should sit a lot closer together than what they are at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we can't talk about human optimization without preventative health. And fitness and wellness and well-being is all part of the preventative journey. And if technology can help people from tracking to maintaining an adherence to a program, if technology can accelerate that, then that's going to drive, that's going to increase the public health of the world. Right? So of course there's a role for technology in that. So it's exciting to see how people are taking a tech approach to solving the public health crisis, because that's really what we're talking about, right? It's a public health crisis, rising diabetes, rising rates of obesity, and we know that people don't like to do the basic, boring things that are required to achieve human optimization. And we also know, we've learned this year through semaglutide, we've learned that it's some of what we thought we knew about being fit, we had to unlearn. I think the scientists have come to the conclusion that the reason semaglutides work is because it's tricking the brain not to crave food all the time. And so for 40 years, the world said, stop eating, but hasn't semaglutide proved that sometimes people have a biological urge to eat that they can't control on their own? So if there's a role for technology to help people adhere to healthy living programs, I'm all for that.
So,
I mean, shouldn't we all?
There's a shift happening, absolutely. There's a shift happening, right? I mean, not only with the people that are exhibiting here, I think when you look at who's exhibiting and who's at CES, a lot of that is driven by where the funding is going.
Of course.
So when you look at over the last couple of years, we talked about seeing less connected fitness because the funding was going towards that. Yeah. Now we're seeing more digital health, wellness, right? Companies present here because the funding is going there. And I think as an industry, we're moving towards that. We're trying to find ways to go from, just a health club and more into health care. And Julian, we were just chatting before we started this segment. You're going through a transformation yourself.
We are.
With
our company.
Fitness.
Our company,
right?
Correct. So NT Etuck, my business partner, and I started BFS 6 years ago. When we started, we did so by producing conferences serving the boutique fitness industry. And so version 1.0 of BFS was, our website address was BFS Conferences, because that's what we did in 2018 and 2019. And then we had the foresight in January 2020, to change the name of the company to boutique fitness solutions because we started offering a broader array of programming services to support boutique fitness businesses, to help them become more efficient, become more profitable. And we know what happened in 2020, the world shifted. And so we got deep into training and development and forming our premier mastermind network. We were doing all that. So that was phase 2, boutique fitness solutions. And as of January of 2024, we've entered phase 3, where we're now BFS Network. And we are serving companies in the broader fitness category, boutique fitness, big box fitness, gym fitness, as well as serving companies in the med spa space. So that could be a company like Drip Bar, the recovery space like Restore Hyper Wellness, the beauty space like European Wax Center, and your favorite Dry Bar. What all those businesses have in common is that they are premium retail businesses on Main Street. Premium meaning they're selling their services at a premium product to upper middle class consumers who have high expectations of a high touch experience. And most of those experiences are being delivered by lower wage workers. And that right there creates the friction in these businesses. That friction creates turnover. And the way you address that turnover is by providing training and development programs to anyone at these businesses who are customer facing. And that's where our focus has shifted. And in fact, we recently launched a program called SEED, S-E-E-D, which is Skills Enhancement and Employee Development. And that is a rigorous 12-month training program for anyone at a gym, studio, recovery business, med spa, retail beauty business. Anyone who's in a customer-facing role needs to understand, needs to be taught the fundamental principles, the universal principles of studio ops, client experience, how to run a studio. We tell our members all the time, they need to hire for attitude, and then they need to train on their brand. We can't train someone on what it means to work at SLT and what it means to work at Solidcore, but we can train their front desk people on the universally accepted best practices of client experience. And we can do so more affordably than they can, so they can focus on engaging their community and not wondering if their front of house people are using and implementing best practices. So our BFS Institute features the SEED program. We also have sprints that are 4-week intensive training programs that feature 6 hours of live instruction on a very micro aspect of any aspect of running a business. So it's 4 weeks, 4 consecutive weeks, 90 minutes of live instruction. That's 6 hours of live instruction, not self-paced, like actual live instruction on Zoom. So we're leaning heavily into the training and development arm. And the reason we're doing this is because we learned last year from all of our surveys that the majority of boutique fitness studios are still not profitable. Let me be clear. 53% were break even or not profitable. 53%. But more importantly, only 9, and this is released in our 2023 State of the Industry is now live. And what we discovered from our surveys of studios all over the country, only 9% were at 20% EBITDA or greater. 9.
Wow.
9. So we have 2 members in the last 3 months who've gone through 2 tragic incidents. One of our members had his business partner passed away suddenly last month, 37 years old, young, healthy guy, died of a viral disease. Sudden. Fortunately, that's a well-run business, profitable, well beyond the 20% EBITDA. So when they had to put everything on hold to tend to the employees and the shock of what happened, the business could keep running because they had already implemented best practices and SOPs. So when one owner is no longer with us, the other owner is no longer focused on day-to-day, the business didn't die because they had done the work, right? So the reason we keep preaching and recommending that studios get to profitability and then get to 20% profitability is so there's a cushion for when life happens, when there's a fire, not in your studio, but in the building below your studio. And when the damage in your studio isn't from fire, but from the water hoses, from the firemen putting out the fire, and you didn't do anything wrong, but now you're out of business for 6 weeks. If you have a level of profitability, you can sustain these challenges. So all year long, NT and I have been focused on the question, what can BFS do, help these studios get to and then increase profitability? And our response is twofold. Number one, help them implement best practices for studio ops. Make sure they know what those best practices are. Make sure, our members know, but their new employees who they hire don't always know. And it's quite time consuming to train an hourly worker on these practices. So number one, we're taking an approach that we are serving as the outsource exclusive training and development arm for our members, helping them implement best practices. Number two, we launched the BFS Marketplace, and we are negotiating partnerships with companies like Home Depot and Staples and Grainger and Cintas, companies that are offering products that every type of business is spending money on. If we can help these companies reduce their overhead by lowering their costs, that helps get them to profitability. And then we're also adding companies that are helping these studios and businesses generate ancillary revenue. So some partnerships that we've formed recently are with a company called Telegenics, which provides semaglutides and other peptides for a wide range of needs. So now any BFS member will be able to offer a comprehensive weight loss program to any of their clients that includes movement, plus semaglutide, plus supplements, plus nutrition. Imagine that, having a comprehensive approach to well-being, following in the footsteps of Lifetime and their Mora initiative. But here's the thing about Lifetime. As great as they are, there's only 198 of them.
How are you finding that with that point? Because obviously you're making some really key changes, getting them to relook at their business model, getting them to put in some contingencies. But what about the model itself as boutique fitness? You know, individual cycle studios, running studios, Pilates studios. You must be seeing a need for that to evolve as the competition's providing that service. And like, what can you say about what was the boutique going back in 2019 to what the boutique needs to become today?
So here's what I can say. You can't compare us to I don't think it's in the best interest of anyone in the industry today to compare today to 2019. 2019, Apple Fitness wasn't a thing. 2019, Peloton wasn't a thing, or wasn't as dominant as they are. The world has shifted, and one thing that NT and I have said consistently is that in 2019, we were in the golden era. 2014 to 2019 was the golden era of boutique fitness. Many, if not most, boutique fitness studios didn't have to sell. We had a member tell us we didn't have to sell. People came in, they pulled out their credit cards, they asked for a 10-pack or a membership, and the front desk people swiped the credit cards. That means there wasn't a culture, a culture didn't develop widely across the industry of how to sell. No. And so that's the difference.
I remember
now.
Even at your event interviewing a few people where they say, oh no, we don't need salespeople.
Right.
Wow.
So we're in a different world now where you have to sell. And so
is that a shift for your member? Because a lot of them didn't even want to do that.
Massive shift. And it's been complicated by all the staffing challenges in the last couple of years. We've gone through the Great Resignation, quiet quitting, inflation, wage increases. Like, it's been a real challenge. And you guys know this was the largest, or one of the largest industries that didn't receive any government support. Yeah. And we're talking about small businesses that had to figure all this out by themselves, and no one was around to say, here's the way forward. Like, I think the fact that only 30% of the industry, according to IRSA, closed, I'm surprised and amazed that the other 70% were able to figure it out and survive. But those 70% are now operating in a very different business environment. So I just don't think it's healthy for them to compare 2023, 2024 numbers to 2019, because we could pull out our phones right now and have just a plethora of high quality fitness content on our phones that didn't exist 5 years ago, and people weren't working from home 5 years ago. So we're just in a completely different world. Having said that, we just finished conducting our one-on-one meetings with our CEO mastermind members, and this is very anecdotal, but we looked at some of our most profitable members, and we looked at the common characteristics among them. So let me iterate again for whoever's listening. This is a very small sample size, but we looked at 13 companies that generated over $1 million in gross revenue last year. All 13 of those had a million revenue plus for multiple locations. And we looked at we were looking to see, because we've all heard Pilates is the hot thing. Mm-hmm. 5 of those 13 were Pilates, okay. But that's not 13 out of 13. If you listen to the market, you would think it would be 13 out of 13. 5 out of 13, less than half, but still the largest category of the 13. But then the others, there's a wide range. There was, looking at that data, you can't say there's one modality that's more popular than others. The one thing that those 13 companies had in common, however, that I think is probably some cause for concern, all 13 were either in a major city or in a suburb of a major city. And so what that tells me is that they have pricing power. By virtue of the incomes available to them, they're probably able to sell their memberships at a higher price.
That doesn't surprise me. Like, I've interviewed, when I was in London, a few people, including one Rebel, and they kind of all said that they were experiencing with different models, but most of them were like, look, we need to be in the major cities. That seemed to be what I was hearing. So it kind of doesn't surprise me. Although there's a lot of, I don't know how.
But there's another side to that coin. Those 13 companies were the companies that were $1 million in gross revenue plus. That wasn't the list of profitable companies. Right. We have a lot of small studios in secondary and tertiary markets that are generating 300, 400, 500,000, and they're profitable because their basis costs are substantially lower, right? There's one of our members is in Cleveland, did $550 last year, gross, and $50,000 net in Cleveland, right? So you don't have to be in a big market to be profitable. Our message is get to profitability.
How does that compare with like the biggest ones at Orange Theory and Exponential? Like, do you know how your members compare to the performance of like an Expo, for example?
We have two of those 13 members I mentioned are actually Exponential franchisees, but they're in a big city or in a suburb of a big city. And look, the thing about Club Pilates and Pilates reformers is there's a scarcity. There's 12 or 16 or 18 megaformers. It's not 50 bikes in the cycling, right? So the successful Club Pilates franchisees I'm aware of are packed with wait lists from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. because there's only 12 megaformers every hour. Even in the heyday, I don't believe SoulCycle could put 50 people in a class every hour in the hour for 12 hours, right? So there is the law of supply and demand here, and scarcity. There is something to be said about scarcity.
And just so, looking at studio performance, touch on SoulCycle for a second. SoulCycle before 2019 would never have thought about doing a membership or an unlimited pass or discounting or any of that, but they're doing it today. They have to do it today.
You know what else they're doing today?
What else?
Advertising.
And advertising, you're right. And advertising.
And not just them. Barry's, Equinox. This is why you can't compare today to then, because those brands didn't do that. They didn't have to do that.
They didn't do that. Right. So, but looking outside of these big brands, the corporate-owned brands, looking at an Exponential or other members of the network, what do you think, an average in a city, a franchisee could, what is the benchmark for top line and bottom line revenue?
You can't answer that question because the number one driver of that is going to be their build out costs in real estate, right? So just take New York City, for example. There are so many different neighborhoods that your build out costs are going to vary. Are you in Harlem? Are you in Harlem on 125th Street, on an avenue, or on a side street, right? Your rent is going to be different on 125th or on Lenox Avenue or on 119th between 7th and 8th. In the same neighborhood, 3 different rents. So it's really tough to answer your question because you have to take that analysis and run all across the country and say, how are we comparing rents in what other cities call the business district? I think they call it the business district, Midtown. You have to compare Midtown Manhattan, Midtown Chicago, whatever the business district is of LA and those cities. And then you have to compare White Plains, New York to Naperville to the suburb of San Diego. Like you have to do that type of analysis, I think, to answer your question.
Okay.
And I don't know that anyone's done that.
Just going back to your point about 53% were not profitable, and out of the ones that were, I mean, I think that would be an interesting thing for us to explore.
The ones that were, so when we got that data, we analyzed the data every which way you can think of to identify the common characteristics among the profitable studios. And people are not going to like to hear what I'm about to say. The most successful studios charge the higher fees. If you're charging $300 an hour for personal training, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to get to profitability. If you're charging $250 a month for a membership, it makes it a lot easier to get to profitability. Now, you can't charge $300 an hour for personal training in the secondary and tertiary market.
Yeah, unless you like having the Pilates studios where you got 10, 12 spots and
supply and demand.
Exactly.
And so this is why we recommend it in the State of the Industry, and we will continue recommending to studio owners that one way for them to get to profitability is to serve their clients' total well-being needs. Mm-hmm. And I think that's critically important that we recognize that regardless of the modality, whether it's personal training, spinning, kickboxing, yoga, those are all forms of movement. And the most dedicated person is maybe moving 3 hours a week. Yeah. So what are you doing for the other 165? And I think it's generally accepted that physical well-being includes nutrition, includes sleep, mental health, recovery, supplementation, and now you have to add in semaglutide. So there's 7 factors, and most studios were only delivering movement, and maybe some were delivering nutrition or supplementation or recovery. But now we're seeing a lot more studios that when they're looking for space, they're looking for space with 2 or 3 treatment rooms for the massage therapist or the physical therapist.
Well, because no one wants the other thing that we had this chat with the guys from Exponential on the episode that we had to take down, but the challenge with fitness is people don't really want to come in there 3 times or 4 times a week. It's very difficult to be motivated to do that. Whereas if you have to come in and have a shot or a tablet, right, that's quite painless. I'll go in and I'll get my IV drip. So and you need to keep doing it.
And the key KPI of 2024 that we are urging fitness studios to implement, to track, is revenue by member. Revenue by member. Too many studio owners say, I need new clients. What they really mean is, I need new revenue. And we all know the adage of it takes $6 to get a new customer, but you already have an existing customer. And most studios are only serving their members' total well-being needs. And I need to mention this so people don't think this is the world according to Julian. This is from McKinsey, Lululemon, and Dan Frommer, who've done their most recent research report saying that the majority of consumers are focused on better health, better sleep, better mental health, and movement, i.e. fitness, is in the middle of the track. So if we're talking about an industry that needs to increase its profitability, then start with the obvious and serve your existing clients the other services that they have told McKinsey, Lulu, and Frommer that they want. They said they want help with sleep. Okay, run a sleep challenge. They've said they want improved mental health. And the other thing that studios can do that won't cost them any money at all is talk about what they're already doing differently. What do I mean? We know that physical activity and exercise improves mental health and improves sleep. And if you look at too many studios' websites, their class descriptions are very fact-based. This is a class where you will do push-ups and burpees and this and that. And too few of the class descriptions talk about the results and the impact of the movement. So it doesn't cost any money to just talk about what you do, the outcome differently. So now you can check the box, we're serving movement, we're serving sleep, we're serving mental health, and it didn't cost any more money, you didn't do anything differently except talk about the outcomes. And then on top of that, if you want to add a cold plunge, you want to add IV drip, you want to add infrared sauna, now you start adding premium packages for your existing members. And if your KPI was $200 a month per member and 100% of that came from movement, can you get to $210 a month? Can you get to $220 a month? Can you get to $225 a month just by offering bundling, nutrition coaching, semaglutide, so that'll be more than $25.
Well, your margins are going to be higher on that extra 20% because your marketing cost to bring new people in is zero.
Exactly. And here's the best thing about it. Your members have already told McKinsey and Lulu and Frommer that this is what they want. So you don't have to do the market research. Now you can find out, do your members want semaglutide, or do they want infrared sauna? Do they want cryotherapy versus something else? You can do that market research, but they've pretty much already told some of the leading organizations in the world that they're interested in movement and something else. And if we're talking about an industry that's trying to get to and then increase profitability, let's start by serving the something else in addition to the movement.
Yeah, makes sense. And I guess with the boutique, the relationship that boutiques have with members compared to traditional clubs is intimate. So the confidence and trust
factor
is going to be a lot higher to be able to recommend those other services. So it's interesting.
Let me just add this. We're not suggesting or recommending that the yoga teacher become a mental health counselor, right? You partner. And that's what we're doing with our Wellbeing Business Network. We are cultivating partnerships with Telegenics, with Dr. B, with IBG Nutrition, with Hyperice. We're doing that for them. That's why we're here at CES looking for companies that we can bring into the Wellbeing Business Network. So we're not suggesting that the Pilates instructor is going to become a nutritionist. We're suggesting that there are companies in your community that probably are looking for clients that will love to deliver their services to your clients. Your clients want something else. You want to make more money. This is truly a win-win-win. The studio makes more money. The client gets what he or she wants. The partner you bring in from your community that's serving well-being, delivering well-being services, they're picking up a new client. Like, there's no loser here. So that's what we're focused on in 2024.
So you've not been very busy, have you, Julian?
No, not at all.
Kind of like taking it easy. Apart from losing
He's
quite a bit of weight, by the
He's gone
way.
into a cave and kind of come out with the revelation.
You know, we've been focused.
Apart from losing quite a bit of weight as well, like you're living you're practicing what you preach.
You two guys keep me in the gym. Mr. 53 and Mr. 43, he doesn't know yet. Wait till he crosses wait till
The big 5-0.
Yeah, exactly. He'll find out.
Well, Julian, thank you very much for joining us. It's been
appreciate the opportunity. Oh, always love seeing you guys. Always great.
John. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you. And by the way, congratulations on L.I.F.T.S. I mean, it's amazing what you guys have done with the new podcast. So really, really happy to be part of it.
Thank you very much.